What's going on, guys? We finally got what we need to do the timing on the YZ. Hopefully that's our issue after we've, in the previous video, confirmed spark. So here we go. We're going to go through the timing, setting up the timing on the 94 YZ. Here's the tools I had to get in order to do the timing on it. Let me show you. Picked this up from Motion Pro. It's a dial indicator for a water-cooled engine. So we're going to be using that here to set up the timing. Anyway, let's get into it here. Okay, now that we've got this locked in here, or not locked in here, but rather now that we've got this set in here, we're going to lock the set screw so the dial indicator can't move up or down. Just like that. So just turn the set screw on the back side there. And then we're going to find top dead center. Alright, so we're supposed to rotate the flywheel counterclockwise until the needle on the dial gauge stops and reverses direction. That'll indicate top dead center. Zero the dial indicator at that point. So we're going to rotate this counterclockwise until the needle stops and reverses direction. Right there. And then we're supposed to zero that. Whoa, it's going to go all the way around. And right near zero, it should reverse direction. There it goes. So it doesn't go past that 0 point. I'll go counterclockwise, and I'll go clockwise, and I'll go counterclockwise. So that right there is top dead center. And we've zeroed the dial indicator on it. Okay, now we've found top dead center. We have to rotate the flywheel clockwise, which I'm going to do by hand while we watch the dial indicator, and we're going to look for 1.2 millimeters. Clockwise we go. And one 0.2 right there. And then we have to check the timing marks on the side of the flywheel and the stator. Alright, so you can see the timing mark on the side of the flywheel. And you can see I had to make a manual mark based on measurements from the previous stator plate. You can also see that there's a timing mark on the inside of the engine case. The question is, are they all perfectly lined up? Here's the problem. My stator plate didn't actually have factory marks on it. It's just blank. So my flywheel's matched up with my engine case, but the stator plate, I have no idea. So I gotta go back to the drawing board and do some research on whether or not this stator is in the right spot. Alright guys, it's update time. It's a few days later now since we checked the marks. I haven't made any adjustments here. I've been corresponding with the company that made the stator that I purchased, and they asked me to run through a couple of tests. The first test they just asked was, do you have spark? So I sent him a snippet of the video and I said, here's my spark, because we all know that I've got spark. The second thing they asked was, could you put it in first gear and run the engine backwards, cycle the engine backwards using the transmission, see if you have spark backwards. What they were doing there was checking for a polarity reverse in the connections. And while I do have spark by cycling the engine forward, by running the rear wheel forward, I don't have spark going in reverse. So I verified that I don't have spark going in reverse. I asked the engineer at the company who makes this stator if I should have spark going in reverse, and they said no. So we're squared away there. So the last thing we've got it narrowed down to, according to this engineer that I've been working with over email, is a timing issue. And I originally asked him in the email, why you put marks on your stator plate? And he hasn't responded to that question. But essentially what they said is, you need to start making micro adjustments to the mounting of the stator and testing it each time. So basically it's a guess and check situation. So I'm going to make a series of adjustments. I've got the manual here. We're going to go through as many adjustments as it takes to get this squared away. That means pulling off the flywheel every single time. So the first adjustment I'm going to make, I kind of want to be a little systematic about this. So the first adjustment I'm going to make is a slight clockwise rotation of the stator, and kind of going back to the whole situation with the dial indicator. The dial indicator isn't going to do me a lot of good, even though I can measure below top dead center by the whatever it is, however many millimeters. It doesn't do me a lot of good if I don't have any marks on the stator plate to know whether or not that's where the flywheel's passing over that point, the correct point on the stator. So really, for me, even though I verified that the flywheel is mounted correctly and that it's at the right spot at that amount of piston drop, I'm unable to verify if the mark on the stator is in the right spot, because there is no mark on the stator. There we go, a series of guess and checks here. We basically eliminated almost everything else that it possibly could be. So hopefully by the end of this short montage of me going through attempts, we'll get a motorcycle that wants to start, and then maybe we'll adjust it again and it'll be a little bit more inclined to start, and maybe we'll adjust it again and it'll be even more inclined to start, or not as inclined to start, and then we know we gotta adjust it back, right? So that's the situation. guys, here's what's up. We've tried probably 25 or so different positions on the flywheel, or not flywheel, on the stator base plate, and I've had 0 results in this thing trying to fire. So I've been in contact with the company that makes that aftermarket stator, and they suggested that I send it back to them and we do an exchange to make sure that it's not a problem with the stator. Before I go through the trouble of mailing stuff all over the planet to try and just take kind of a blind shot at the problem, I got a multimeter. I'm going to do some electrical testing to see if the stator's good, if the ignition coil is good. That's kind of the only things in the custody chain there: the stator, the ignition coil, the wire for the plug. But we're getting spark, so that might not be a problem. So let's go through a couple electrical tests. I got to disconnect the cable for the stator, which means I'm going to be taking off the fuel tank to do that, and then probably emptying out the fuel and all that. So just one more step in troubleshooting here. See if we have an electrical problem. Okay, the stator runs up on the other side of the radiator, comes over the top right here, and is plugged into these two. We've got a green, and we've got a triple plug. The plug has a black, red, and a brown. So we're going to disconnect the green. Maybe. And then we're going to disconnect this plug 3 here. Get those out of the way. This is the wiring harness that goes to the ignition coil, the CDI and the ignition coil. And then this comes from the stator right here. So these ones here, the ones that come from the stator, and we're going to test each one. There's 3 tests to do here. So we're going to take our ohm meter, and this might be a little hard to film the results of it, but I'll definitely show them to you. And we're going to turn it over to ohms resistance here, right there. And then the first test is, you gotta look up your model year, brown to black. Now remember, there's a black red and a black. So it doesn't matter which way you go with the positive negative here, you just need to check them both. So brown is this top, boy, you cannot see that, this top left one. And black, not black red, but black is the bottom here. And we're going for, let's see here, 440 to 660 ohms, 440 ohms to somewhere in that range there. I've got 298.7 ohms here. Let me show you. There it is. 298.6 right now. The minimum is supposed to be 440 up to 660. So that's not right. So let's move on to the next test. What I'm looking for is a black and red to black, and that's going to be 35 to 54. 36 to 54 ohms. So let's go check that out. So to try to give you a better idea of what's going on here, we're going black and red to black. You can see there's a red here, or a black and red right here, and then black's underneath there. So black and red to black. So we hit 61.6 this time. So we were looking here at the 94, black and red to black, 36 to 54. We ended up with which is outside the range. It's kind of dumb to keep continuing to test the whole ignition system, but green and white is this independent here. It'll be easy to get to. And the black is the bottom one. $145.4. So we were going for, I already forgot, 104 to 156. We ended up 145. So that one's on. That's the only one so far. Let's check the engine cutoff switch. We have to trace the cutoff switch down and locate the two leads for the cutoff switch, which are these two here, and then disconnect them. So to test the cutoff switch, we take the leads and we connect them to either end of the switch here. We've unplugged it, and we're going to go here and here. With it on the end of the switch. And there should be resistance when you push the switch. So when you activate the switch, you should get a reading if your connections are still good. With your third mutant hand, maintain two of these, and with your third mutant hand, push the switch. There you go. You can see my meter lighting up there. So we know the engine cutoff switch is doing its job. All right, here's what's gonna happen now. I'm gonna pull out the stator and get it removed. While I'm doing that, I'm also gonna pull out the ignition coil and test that while it's not mounted on the motorcycle in the frame. And then we're gonna go on from there. We're gonna retest everything outside of the bike now that I suspect there may be some issues there, and see where we're at. So I'm gonna get a hold of the company that makes that and replace that bit. It's gonna be the same video here, so we'll go from there when I get the part in. We're probably just gonna jump right from here to when I start assembly with the new part. So let's go into the future. Okay, we got some new parts here. We got a new stator, we got a new spark plug cable, and we're gonna be mounting the stator internals up to the old base plate here. And we're gonna transfer it over. The only reason is because this base plate has a general marking of where the OEM timing mark was. So we're gonna transfer everything over, and then we're going to get to reassembling it on the motorcycle. Okay, so that didn't work at all. I tested that Stator before I installed it, and it failed 2 out of 3 tests. I'm beginning to suspect that that company, even though they say they manufacture a Stator that'll work for my model year, it works for a range of model years. I'm beginning to suspect they don't actually make one that has the resistance and output that's correct. And with the timing issue, I can only deal with one thing at a time, right? I can only attack one thing at a time is what I should say. I can only try to solve either a timing issue or an issue with the part itself one at a time. So what I decided to do was buy another Stator off of eBay, this time a factory one, and I got that today, and it's not in bad shape. I actually will probably just install it as is to see what it see if it yields any results. First I'll see if I can even get spark out of it. But it has a timing mark, which is what I've been kind of agonizing over for the past, well, it's been about a month. So, timing mark is right there. Let's see if I can get it to focus here. There we go. Yeah, so we got a timing mark right there, which is more than I can say for that aftermarket Stator. Now, I want to put this on the motorcycle and see if this thing makes spark. And if it does make spark, how strong does that spark look? So that's the first thing I'm going to do here. We're starting to get to the point where I'm just starting to throw parts at this thing to see what sticks and what'll work. So if this doesn't work, we're going on to a plan B and then a plan C. I guess this is already plan like F. So I don't know. Anyway, here we go. You guys have already seen me take off the Stator and put a new one on like a dozen times. I'm not going to run you through that. I'm just going to quickly transition over to having the new Stator on. So, new Stator's on, installed, and my spark is a little different now. I want to show you. I'll probably cut in an image of the previous spark after I replace some of the parts, and then now with the new, it's not a new Stator, it's just a factory Stator off of a different motorcycle that I bought off of eBay. So with this new factory Stator installed, I got a slightly different spark. I think it's quite a bit stronger, and I want you to see. I'll let you be the judge. So we're going to turn down the lights and show you the spark here. Here's the spark plug now after the new old Stator. Alright, so anyway, we'll hold that up against the old footage and you tell me if it's different. I don't know. We'll find out when we try to kick the thing over. Nice and consistent, reliable. I guess now that that stator's installed and I was getting better spark, we're going to kick it a few times and see if it wants to go. I'm like 10% confident it will, so, but it's worth a try. Here we go. Okay, hang on just a second. This is future me here. I'm editing the video, and if you're like me, you're probably going, why isn't he freaking out right now? He should be celebrating the whole situation. I just wanted to run you through some of the many things that were going through my head, get you in the same frame of mind. This kick, where it started on the first try, I'm basically panicking. I'm thinking about how all these are brand new bearings moving at a rate they've never moved before. This is the first time the engine's cycling oil. This is the first time the engine's cycling coolant. I'm wondering if it's getting what it needs. I'm wondering if it's gonna explode or start puking gas or anything. So it takes me a few seconds to realize that it's running just fine. When you're seeing me sort of react, or rather not react, to the first start of this and not really celebrate, what I was going through inside my head was something more like this. But anyway, we're going to go back and watch that whole clip again, and you'll see Brittany come in here in a second and snap me out of my sort of deep mental funk of thinking of all the complexity that's happening inside of the engine. Jeez, it really wanted to go. The first try.
Is it really?
Yeah, the first. I didn't even get halfway down the stroke, and it just like. Bleh!
Oh my god, I feel like I'm gonna cry right now.
It's really
Holy
smoky
crap!
in here.
That's so stupid. I didn't. Oh, you're recording? Shit.
Yeah.
Oh my god, my heart is pounding so hard right now.
It's loud.
Well, why'd you do it in the garage?
I didn't think it was gonna go.
Oh god, it's disgusting in here.
I gotta put it outside.
Oh my god. It actually wasn't that loud. At least I don't think so. Do you want me to stop this?
No. Will you
Give you your
that
triangle?
triangle?
Yeah. Oh. I can't believe it started.
You know, I might run it for a couple of minutes just to get it warmed up here.
Go ahead.
Let's adjust the. I'm gonna start it up and let it run for like 2 or 3 minutes. Take the choke off, and then and then that'll be the end of the video. Ooh. that was the problem. The aftermarket Stator didn't have the right setup. The coils weren't correct for this motorcycle. This eBay Stator off of the OEM Stator from eBay with the timing mark and everything. It just goes to show you sometimes you just need to test stuff before you put it on. I can't believe that was the problem all along. Anyway, it starts up like a champ. Now, at first kick, so far I've started it twice, first kick both times. In the next video, we're going to go over engine break-in and first ride. So, thanks for watching. I'm not going to draw this one out any longer, but I have a started 1994 YZ250 that runs, and honestly, it needs a little carb adjustment, but it's not that far off. So I'm looking forward to it. See you in the next one. Damn it. God damn it. Shit. Holding tripod.